They shall be my finest warriors, these men who give themselves to me. Like clay I shall mold them, and in the furnace of war forge them. They will be of iron will and steely muscle. In great armor shall I clad them, and with the mightiest guns will they be armed. They will be untouched by plague or disease. No sickness will blight them. They will have tactics, strategies, and machines, such that no foe can best them in battle. They are my bulwark against the terror. They are the defenders of humanity. They are my space marines, and they shall know no fear.
Space Marine 2 is a breath of fresh air, and is exactly what people should expect from a AAA game. The best way I can describe the gameplay is a perfect love child between Doom and Gears of War. It's a third-person shooter in which you play as a Space Marine from Warhammer 40,000. And if you don't know what that is, imagine a literal tank on legs, but instead of taking fuel, it runs on pure testosterone and religious zealotry. These guys are 8 feet of pure, manly muscle, with a bunch of surgical implants that make them superhuman meat tanks capable of bench pressing a truck. One of said implants is called the Black Carapace, which allows a Space Marine to don power armor that increases their bench from a truck to a whole 18-wheeler. It's like if a hydraulic press was a suit of armor. I'm not going to get too much into the lore here, but they're basically the Spartan 2s from Halo, but bigger, stronger, and hundreds of years older, with access to weaponry that your average human can't even deadlift. Their bolt pistol is the size of a man's chest, and fires bullets so heavy they need to be rocket propelled. Imagine a 50 BMG, but bigger, and fired with one hand. 40k is over the top as hell, and it's glorious. The gameplay boils down to two main mechanics, shooting and melee. You can hold 2 firearms, one primary and a secondary, as well as one melee weapon. This weapon could be an iconic chainsword, a Space Marine-sized knife, a power sword, Thor's hammer with the handle it was supposed to have, and your preferred hand. With guns, you shoot things, and with your melee weapons, you bonk things. Using either is seamless since melee is bound to one button, and you switch your guns with one button as well. It's fluid and feels good to swap weapons mid-fight. Dodging, parrying, and blocking are also core mechanics. Dodging is dodging. It gives you invincibility frames like Dark Souls. Parrying is what you'd expect, timing a block just right to retaliate with a critical, kinda like Dark Souls, and blocking is blocking. Very simple. When landing a perfectly timed parry or dodge, you can perform a gun strike, which does big damage and restores armor when killing something with it. Speaking of armor, you have varying levels of armor depending on the class you play, and it serves as a damage buffer for your health. When your armor runs out, you're vulnerable to health damage, and your armor is regenerated by either picking up items, performing gun strikes, or performing executions. When an enemy reaches low health, it will flash red, which means it can be glory killed. When you take health damage, a white meter appears beside the red of your health bar. This is contested health, and can be quickly regained by dealing damage, which includes gun strikes and executions. It's like rallying from Bloodborne. Staying aggressive can win you health back and save you from using up your stims. You also have grenades, which are exactly how you'd imagine they be. You throw them, and they explode. They're great for killing groups of little enemies or wounding, if not outright killing, bigger ones. There are two main enemy factions in the game. There are the Tyranids, which is the Flood with extra steps, and Chaos. They both play quite differently and are fun in their own ways, but my personal favorite to fight is the Tyranids, because, well, they don't shoot back very much. Tyranids come in swarms, with World War Z type pile-ups spilling over walls as elite enemies rush in to try and take you down. Chaos is similar, but usually lesser in number, with less claws, more bullets, and a side of schizophrenia. That about covers the core gameplay, but now it's time to talk about the different game modes. Campaign. In this game, you play as Captain Titus of the Ultramarines. He's the same guy you played as in the first Space Marine game released 13 years ago. Even if you haven't played that game, it's fine because Titus is an absolute badass, and you don't need to have played the first game to enjoy this one. That's mostly because the story takes a backseat for the adrenaline-fueled, testosterone-induced carnage that is the gameplay. I don't want to go too far into the plot, as it is quite enjoyable, and I don't want to spoil what few spoilers there are. I know I showed the Chaos enemies, but come on, we all saw that coming. When playing single player, you take control of Captain/Lieutenant/Lieutenant Demetrian Titus, the bluest smurf that ever was. He has a special ability wherein he summons the rage of being confined by the Inquisition for years and takes it all out on the enemies of the Imperium, which is everyone else, buffing the health regen and damage of everyone around him. When playing co-op, two other players take control of Chiron and Gadriel. Gadriel has an ability in which he scans things to make them more vulnerable, and Chiron just yells really loud. That's about it. Overall, the campaign is a great time to play through. The characters are enjoyable, the set pieces are gorgeous, and the feeling of ripping through heretics and Xenos is immaculate, although it may get repetitive near the end. It's a great time. Operations. Operations is where a majority of my gameplay time is. This is the main PvE mode of the game. You hop into a squad with two other players, or bots, and take on various missions together. There are 6 classes to choose from. Tactical is the most versatile class in the game, with a wide selection of primary weapons and a chainsword for melee. They have Gadriel's Auspic scan ability, so they are incredible for raw damage output, and a little slicey-dicey with the chain blade on top. Remember how the US military wanted to make the whole Rod from God weapon system in which they would launch tungsten rods from orbit to decimate whole cities? Well, that's the assault class with a Thunderhammer. If you're not running this class with the Thunderhammer, you're doing it wrong. You are the Hammer of God, and few Xenos can stand the power of Thor as you jetpack joyride your way into the fray, atomizing swaths of Xenos with your raw mass. Seriously, this is one of the funnest classes in the game, and seeing the Xenos watch in horror as a 1,000-pound hunk of metal and testosterone flies in their direction at Mach 1 will never get old. Play Assault. It's fun. Vanguard is the zip-in, zip-out mobility class. You get a grappling hook, because every game after Doom Eternal needs a grappling hook, and that's about it. You kill things like everyone else, but you have a grappling hook. It's nice. Bulwark is him, and no one can break through your impenetrable shield. It's the only class with the power sword, which is a shame because that weapon is sick. It has 2 modes swapped by holding the light attack button. Single target and mass extermination, or exterminatus. Your ability is the chapter banner, which heals you and your allies' armor to keep you all in the fight longer. This ability is broken. It essentially makes you nigh unkillable as long as you stay in the aura. And speaking of aura, Bulwark easily has the best cosmetics in the game. I mean, look at that beautiful helmet. And the hood makes it look like Fallen Knight from Dark Souls 3. Plus the robes and everything makes you look like a true paladin. They'd be Oath of Vengeance for sure. Compared to Bulwark, it feels like every other class got the short end of the stick, because this class is amazing. Sniper is the edgelord class. If you're not running Raven Guard, you're doing it wrong. It's a lot of fun, though, especially if you enjoy the last fusel. Drop every other weapon, just use the last fusel. Thank me later, that thing is busted. You get a cloaking ability, which fits because you're a sniper. And it's also a decent medic class, since you can camo up and revive your down brothers no problem. Bulwark is the best medic class in my opinion, because they get a perk that revives teammates on banner placement, but this one is a good second. Also, I hope you like the combat knife, because that's a sniper's melee weapon. Just like the little rogue we all know he is. Chonkster is the beefiest class in the game. You've got a heavy weapon, a dinky little pistol, and raw mass. Plus a cool shield. The Chonk is the heaviest class in the game. I swear, you feel physically slower playing him just due to the weight. You don't even need to have a melee weapon, because you don't need one. Your gun and your size 24 hooves are your melee weapons. Out of ammo? That's fine. Throw hands. Just slap thing with the sheer size of your gun and cause earthquakes with your boots. Just stomp the Xenos into submission. Isaac Clarke would be proud. You can't dodge while in heavy stance, which can make your maneuverability a bit wacky, but when it comes to laying down walls of lead and tanking a bunch of projectiles as you do it, this is the class to play. If Assault is the hammer of God, then Heavy is the boot of God. On top of all that, each class has access to a select variety of weapons to use, which level up as you use them, and each one even has a perk tree to fill as you acquire new variants of each weapon. Your classes also level up as you play, earning you new drip and perks to make your Space Marines more him than they already were. Operations is a fun time, and build crafting can be really fun. PvP. This game's PvP, like the rest of the whole game, is a breath of fresh air. It feels like the old school Halo games, made with pure fun and no MLG BS in mind. This game is made to be fun, and PvP is the same way. No skill-based matchmaking here, just you, your team, and heretics to purge. There are 3 game modes and maps to play as of now. There's Team Deathmatch, Domination, and Hardpoint. The maps are all fun, and I don't really prefer any over the other. You play as the same class as you do in Operations, with some slight changes to their gameplay. For example, the Assault's jetpack actually works like it does in the campaign. They really have to change that, letting you jump over a skyscraper, as it should. And the Vanguard can actually grapple walls. It's a ton of fun, and to win, you're gonna have to work as a team. This is an arcade shooter at heart, and it's great. That about covers all the game modes in Space Marine 2. As for the downsides of the game, my main 2 issues are not even about the gameplay itself, but rather getting to the gameplay. I play on Xbox Series X, and this game crashes frequently. When Termination, the first post-launch operations mission, dropped, I crashed 3 times trying to play through that mission. Besides that mission, the campaign and the operations mode would crash at least once every 2 hours. There's the crashing and the general server issues as well. So connecting to a lobby or your friends can be tedious at times. But those are all things I can see getting a fix in the future. And besides a few nitpicks here and there, I have no other issues with this game. Overall, it's a ton of fun. Its gameplay loop is addictive, and with new content slated to drop consistently, there's a lot to look forward to. The devs plan to add new weapons, classes, operations missions, a horde mode, and much more as time goes on, all for free, and all paid DLC is purely cosmetic. If you're on the fence about getting the game, I say go for it. For all the reasons I've stated, I felt I should support a game that puts its players first in an industry where that's a rarity. It's refreshing to have a game like Space Marine 2 release when it did, in the era of unfinished cash grab games that love to shove politics down your throat. This game harkens back to the 2010s era of gaming, where games were made to be fun first. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed. May the Emperor guide you.